Hey everyone, on the last video on my beaded hide bag part 1, I ended up putting a note in there basically saying that I was going to split the video into 2. We left off yesterday where we were going to begin the fringe work, so that's what we're up to today. But before we do that, there's a couple of other things that we have to attend to first. Before I finish this side, I'm going to do a couple of things to make life a little bit easier for me. So first, I'm gonna find another needle here and thread that. And now I'm changing to Nymo. I'm not a big fan of Nymo, but when you're going to do fringing, Nymo really is your friend. You can fringe with Fireline, but the problem is I always find that I have a hard time getting my fringe to really sit properly. So the reason I'm doing this is because we are going to be fringing in a minute. I'm going to put my knot in. And I do this to just kind of help myself out a little bit, where I can hide my knot and just make life just a tiny bit easier for myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, undo that knot. So what I want to do is now I want to, in order to make my fringing easier and to hide my knot, I'm going to put my new thread on. I'm going to come straight out that bead right where my blue thread is coming out. And I'm going to pull that through, all the way through, and then this gets me set up, ready to start fringing. So I can take the needle off of this thread now, and you know, this isn't the only way to do it. I'm just showing you one way that you can do this. And in fact, you'll be shown several different ways because this thread won't be enough to fringe all the way across, so I'll have to change threads at some point in time, and you'll see how I hide my thread when I do that. But this is just a convenient way before I close up the bag to do that. So now the thread that I cut the knot off of, I'll thread the same needle again, and it's just to make things just a little bit easier for yourself. And anytime you can do that in beadwork, that's a good thing. So what I'm going to do is, and again, because hide is just so stretchy, I just want to make sure that these 2 tops right here are pretty equal, and it's hard to do on my bead mat. I just want to make sure that they're about equal distance from the top. And again, it's just because the hide can be so incredibly stretchy. I'm going to sort of eyeball it. I don't need to be smack on exact, but I want to eyeball it. I'm just going to tie a knot just to hold it there. I'll remove my needle, and that just puts it and holds it in position where I want it to be for when I come up the side. So I've got my thread ready, my Nymo ready for when I'm going to start fringing. All right, so it's the next day actually, and I'm pretty much finished all the way around my bag here. There's the back, there's sort of the front, and I've left just a few spaces open here for the rest of the beads to fill in, and I'll show you how we connect the last 2. A little bit better this morning, although I'm a bit skeptical. These medications really don't seem to be working quite so fast. I got this sinus infection as a result of a really nasty flu I had. In fact, I had 3 bouts of the flu in the last 6 months, I guess, which is a bit unusual for me. And this last one, normally a flu takes me, I don't know, 4 or 5 days to recover, I guess, but this one took me a really long time, and so I realized something was very wrong. And so finally, a couple days ago, I went in to have it looked at, and yeah, I was miserable at night. I couldn't breathe, and through my nose, it was terrible. Okay, so I've spaced for one more bead to go in here. Hopefully you can see that. And so I'm going to do it the exact same way I normally do, no different than what I've been doing all along. So I'll put in a stitch here, pull through, and now back up underneath the way I've always been doing it. And there we have it. Now I'm coming up out of this last bead I just put on, and this is the sort of the first bead from the side. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go down that bead right there and pull. I'll come back up one more time and down again. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just come down this one. So any bead beside you can come down. So I'm going to turn my work around here. And now what I want to do is the thread that is connecting the bead here. Let's move in a little bit so you can see that. There we go. So this thread right here under the bead, I'm going to just put my needle under there, and I'm going to create a loop, and I'm going to go through that loop twice. And I'm going to create a little knot there. And then I'm going to come up under the one beside, and then down again. And it's hard to see, but I just kind of poke around in there and I feel for where that thread is underneath that one. And I'm going to once again go through that loop twice. And this is actually pretty secure. I don't get too concerned about how secure it actually is. I'm going to go back up the same bead. There we go. And then I'll just trim that. So it's pretty easy. And so now I will be ready for the next step. So I already have my string on, my Nymo, which is really, really long right now for when I'm ready to start my fringe work. All right, so now let's get on to the fringing part. And if you recall in the video from yesterday, let me move that in and move that out. You can see what we're doing here. If you recall from part 1's video, before we sewed everything up, we added some Nymo thread coming out the bottom of one of these beads here. And so that's going to be our starting point for fringing. Now when I fringe, I'm going to move this mat, my beading board, my hide bead board out of the way. But I'll move my hide piece out of the way for now. But actually, let's just take a quick little look at it first. So it looks pretty nice. I think that looks pretty good. Front and back here. And we're going to do a button on there as well. Normally I do that before I've done the fringe work, but I'm going to do the fringe first because my husband is the one who cuts the antler buttons for me, and he's pretty busy right now, so I'll just get on with the fringes first. So what we're going to do is I'll move that out of the way for the time being. And I've changed from my other needle, which was a little smaller and thicker. I don't know if you can see that. I'll just lay them on the mat. To a longer, thinner needle. a size 12, I think this one is, and this is a size 11, and this is 11 short, which makes it easier to go through hide. So change needles. Now I want to think about what colors I want to use in my fringe work. Bring this back for a moment. So we've got some nice red in here. So we will use the red. I have also got some of this center color. I don't have a lot of it though. That's really all I have left. So I'm not sure that that's going to work, that will be enough. So put that aside. We have the dark blue in there. I've got some of this sort of lighter blue, which also matches this. And I might just use this on the very ends. That might work. So I'm going to use sort of 3 main colors, I guess, to do this part. And then I'll use these for the very bottom to make a little picot, I suppose, on the bottom. So that should hopefully see me through with enough beads. So let's do that. I have my colors all set up in some semblance of order here. Now when I do fringe work, I like to move my bead mat out of the way. So I'll put it there, and hopefully this will be enough room for me. Sort of tough luck if it's not. And I like to go from sort of from left to right with my fringing, although it's going to be sort of top to bottom for me, and I'm really going to do my absolute best to stay in frame. I think what I will do is I'm going to actually lay some tape down on my desk just as a little spot to say don't pull closer than this edge. There we go. Now the type of fringing that I'm going to do here is going to be sort of a zigzag, a jagged pattern, and I like to do that because it's number one, having a very straight fringe is really boring. And then the other thing too is that these are not the best beads in the world, so there's some inconsistencies in their sizing. And if you can do a fringe that zigzags, it makes it a little bit better. Now these beads right here, they look really yellow. They're actually not. They're a very nice sort of an opaque light orange. They're sort of a burnt orange color in a way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 3 red. I'm going to do 5 light blue. 5 dark blue. Then it'll be 2 red, 2 light. I'm going to do 1 dark, 2 light, 2 red, 5 dark blue, 5 light, 5 red, slide those down. Okay, so I've got that. And then the next thing I will put on is a light blue in the size 8. Slide that down. And now I'll pick up my 3 orange. I know you can't see that off frame, but you don't need to watch me pick those up. Okay, and so I'm going to go back up through all of these beads. And you have to be very careful that your needle does go through all of the beads and doesn't skip any, or you'll get a really kind of a big kink in your fringe, and it won't look nice. It'll look silly. I'm still sniffling a lot today. I'm not quite as bad as I was yesterday, but I'm still sniffling. And the video that I did yesterday, part 1, holy cow. I went through it and I was just sniffling nonstop, and it sounded horrible. And I thought, oh, nobody wants to sit and listen to me sniffle like that. So I spent a lot of time editing out close to 10 minutes of me just sniffing. So I'll probably have to do the same today. I don't really notice when I do that, but I'll try to stay conscious of it today. Okay. There we go. And that is our fringe. Now I could put a little orange bead in there instead of that dark blue, but I think it looks okay. So I went down, I picked up all of these beads. So 3 red, 5 blue, light blue, dark blue, 5 of those, 2 red, 2 light, 1 dark, 2 light, 2 red, 5 dark, 5 light, 5 red, light blue size 8, and then 3 orange. And then I skipped the orange and I came all the way back up, and that forms the picot. And I also came up this bead that is on the hide. So now all we have to do to set up for the next one is, and I'm going to just turn this a little bit. So I'm coming out of the top of this bead right here, this very first one. I'm going to go down the second one that's right beside it. Real easy. And we'll just pull. There we go. Okay, now because we're going to go make a progression of this being a zigzag, that means the next one in line either has to be shorter or longer, and I'm going to make it longer. So all of the counts will stay the same all of the time, except right up here at the very top where the reds start. That will vary between 1 and 5. So I've got 3 on there now, so the next one will go longer and we'll pick up 4. Other than that, everything stays the same. So 5 of the rest, or the other 2. 5 light, 5 dark, then we just follow this same pattern as well. So 2 red, 2 light, 1 dark, 2 light, 2 red, 5 dark again, 5 light, 5 red, and then my light size 8. Pop that back into frame there. And there we have it. I pick up my 3 orange. Like this. And all I'm going to do is just put it past the needle. I don't have to slide it all the way down. But I'm going to hold my thread a little bit taut, and I will go back up through my beads, making sure I'm going through all of the beads and not skipping any. And pull that a little bit because my needle won't go the whole way through. This part I really have to keep my eyes on the beads and not the camera frame, so I apologize if it goes out of frame a tiny bit. But all I'm doing is I'm just going right back up through all of the beads. Remember, having skipped the 3 orange ones that I put on. Back up through all the red, and then back up through that bead that's on the hide. and we're going to pull. Now you'll notice we got this little loop here. All I have to do is pull on that, hold on to these 3 orange beads, kind of sort those out and pull, and it kind of straightens itself out quite nicely. Okay, so we had 3 on the first, then 4. We're going to go up to 5 now. I won't make you watch me pick up all these beads. I'm going to pause this camera, pick them up, and then show you again. And now I'll pick up my 3 orange. And then I'm going to go back up. Fringing is really easy. There really isn't a challenge to it. It's not a hard thing to do. And there are so many different ways to do a fringe. So many different ways. And I'll be showing those different techniques as we go through these video series, depending on what I choose to do, because YouTube is being a pain. All right, there we go. This is just a really awkward position for me to be doing this. Okay, so you can hopefully see that they're progressively getting longer. So 5 here is the maximum I'm going to go. So the next bead over will be 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, or however you want to do it. I just find it gives a nice zigzag. So I'm going to continue doing this, and I'll come back once I'm done. Time for a thread change here. I'm just going to make sure everything in here is really nice and tight. So the way I do this, without getting too caught up, I like to go down the one before one more time. I just want to have a lot of tension on here, or as much as I can, and then I'll go back up again the next bead beside that. I just want to get away from here a little bit. And what I'm going to do is, there is a thread that is on the bottom of this blue bead here. And all I do is I actually bring my needle down in behind that bead, and I can't help but catch that thread. And then I pull, and I bring my needle in, and I'm going to do that twice. I want a pretty good knot on here. And I'm actually going to go back. I'm going to catch this thread on the side here. And I'm going to go back down that same bead. And in fact, I'll go down several of those beads. Needle came off. And I can pull the knot actually down inside that bead. Snip that off. And we're done. So I managed this time to get my long needle threaded. I was actually sat outside finishing off this beadwork here. And I do like this longer needle. It's just I can pick up a lot more beads. So I've made this really quite long just because I don't really like creating new threads unless I have to. I'm not a big fan of it. So I'm going to go, this is the bead I need to be coming out of, but I'm going to go back 2 beads, and basically I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did to end off my thread. And that is, I will be pulling my thread through. And I'm just going to tie a knot. I'm going to do that once. And I'll do it, hopefully you can see that. And now this time I'm going to bring my thread around through twice. And just pull hard. Now I can take my needle, get that tail end out of the way, down through this bead that I just tied onto. And just that bead I want to come out of, none of the others. And pull. I just want to make sure that tail doesn't get caught in there. And pull. And then I'll go back up the bead beside it. Really got to watch for the tangles because such a long piece of thread, it's so easy to tangle it. But there we go. And then I'll come back down. And that's pretty much it. I can now cut this off. And you'll never know. So that's our fringe work coming along nicely. I will finish this up over to here, and then tying off is the exact same thing that I've just done here. It's no different. So I will finish this off and have it all tied off, and I'll show you the bottom, and then we'll start at the top of the fringe. So there we have our bag. Try to straighten those fringes out a little bit. And this was our starting side over here. I started with 3, and on this side I ended with 4. And I do that because, you know, if I started here with 1 and ended over here with 5, it just looks a little bit funny. So I usually start with 2 or 3 and then finish off over on the end here. But 3 seems to work out really good with the spacing here. So it just looks a little bit more even. And then you can see the edges are nice and kind of jaggedy there. So now I can actually go ahead and tie onto this one. All right. So we're up at the top again, and once again I'm going to start off with 4 red, and now you notice on the bottom fringe we were doing them by 5s. Now we're going to do them more or less by groups of 3. So it'll be 3 of the light blue, 3 of the dark blue, and then the next part was, on the lower part was 2 red, 2 light blue, 1 dark. But now it's just going to be 1 of each. So it will be 1 red, 1 light, 1 dark, 1 light, and 1 red. And that's the sequence that we will put next. And then we go backwards with 3 dark blue, 3 light blue, 3 red, and then our size 8 bead on the bottom. And we're just producing a shorter fringe for the top, which is what we want. And of course, we're still going to do our 3 orange beads. I think that tape is probably really annoying and in the way. Okay, and then it's the same process. And once again, we're going to go down the bead beside, and we'll pull that nice and tight. That knot didn't really go in there too easily, so I'm going to just pull on that a little bit. There we go. Probably still not really going in, but that's okay. I'm going to cut that off. There we go. All right, so we got 4 there. Next one, we go up to 5. And there you have it. So back down. And if you need to change thread in the middle, you can rewind that part of the video to see how to do that. But you've also seen how to end the thread off. So I'm going to continue on till I get to the very end there. And when I do, I'll show you the finished product. And there you have it. Let's come out a little bit. So there's the top fringe done as well. And I'll just show you the other side as well. So there we have it. It looks really quite nice. I think on camera it doesn't really do it justice, but well, it is the best that we have at the moment. So there we are, Métis flower beadwork beaded hide bag.